It's
Here
time.
we go then. Oh,
It's finals day. We have YSC, a team that has thoroughly dominated this competition so far. They've won every match in their playoffs by a good margin, versus VA Callisto, a team that started in the upper bracket, instantly got knocked down, but has done pretty well going forward. And they came in with a revolutionary win in the semi-finals, lower bracket against Killswitch. Um, formerly Killswitch, now Element Dragon. But it was close. It came down to a 1v1 on the point. You can find that at Crown Cup on YouTube if you want. But this is all headed to the grand final here today. YS Siege versus VA Callisto. I am pumped.
yeah, very exciting. Of course, this is the final after all the months of action that we've had. And this is going to be deciding our Crown Cup champion. We will be seeing who is going to come out on top this evening in a best of 7 round. Well, it'll be very good to see, won't it? Our Challenger Division final is it's about to get underway. We're about 5 minutes away from the first game starting, and well, there's one team that's looking very much on top. Of course, VA have done very well to make it to this point, but it looks like YS Siege are just they just look so good.
Now, if this match is a little bit predictable towards YS Siege, but if something's going to shape that up, it might be the new patch that released literally yesterday that's changed like half the tanks perks wise. Malga's got a reasonably significant buff. His combat fuel major perk gives him a lot more survivability, and his ult is a lot cheaper now, 6%. So that potentially brings Malga into play in at least some of these matches. Freya, Relentless Barrage, the ammo refunded got increased from 4 to 8. Again, that's big enough that we might see just a little bit more Freya. Reaper, they kind of reworked a lot of his abilities and movement because he's been hard meta the past season. Now, BAP, this perk is potentially going to have the biggest impact. Assault Burst, his major perk, it no longer removes the healing from Regenerative Burst, and it still gives a 25% damage buff to nearby allies, or attack speed even. Now, we're not sure yet. We're only a day into this new patch, so everything's still a bit up in the air. But I wouldn't be shocked if we saw some BAP Lucio here. We've seen it before. It's a fun comp. It's genuinely quite good because you've got the proactiveness of a Lucio and the healing and reactiveness of a Baptiste, so it can react to a lot of situations and be strong both on attack and defense in fights. So I'm kind of excited to see if we see the teams pumping out those comps.
Of course, these buffs, these nerfs at this point of the season. Of course, when we got a final to be contested, they might have to change their approach slightly. That's what makes this final round and this final matchup so interesting. It's the difference, the small, minute differences to these characters that might make huge effects, and they might be changing their comp as a result. They might be changing their setup, and it's going to be interesting to see who gets thrown out, who gets banned straight away. Of course, we've got a couple of characters who I feel as though are going to be right on the chopping block straight away from both sides. So, I mean, the opportunity for both will present itself, I'm sure, at some point in this evening. We talk about how it looks like it's going to be all in the favor of YS Siege, but VA Callisto, they've made it here in the first place, so they still have an opportunity. With this potentially new meta, they might have a chance to, become the better team, snatch it away.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I mean, looking even closer at the recent update, Tracer is bugged, and they've changed one of her perks. So now, after she recalls, instead of getting 2 blinks back, it reduces the cooldown of it, but it also reduces the cooldown of her recall. So we might see a problem of Tracer being played a lot specifically for that perk because of how much better it makes her as a character. So I wouldn't be shocked if we see like a reasonable amount of Tracer bans. Uh, it's also worth noting that Aqua is banned in Wu Yang is banned in this tournament because he was released after it started, but he's been changed a lot, and we can just ignore that for the sake of this final, which honestly pretty nice because that was like half the meta shift.
Yeah, I mean it does just change on a dime, and that can change the entire game. We're gonna have a look at how these two teams have managed to make it to this final. And well, let's start off with YS Siege's journey. They've won every single match on their way to the final, facing the Berlin Monkeys in the first round, MUC Celestial in the second, and then the ELMT Dragons to make their way to this final showdown with VA Callisto, who, well, you can see on the left side of your screens, the third match down, they actually lost to the team that Siege beat in the semis, the ELMT Dragons, and that threw them into the losers bracket. But they've just fought their way through again and again and again. They beat MBS Vortex and MUC Celestial. They got a free pass in that one. Then they beat Flankton and then managed to just about overturn ELMT Dragon towards this final. And we see both these teams. They'll be fighting each other. They've fought similar teams before. They've come out on top, so it might be the case that they have similar play styles that might be clashing.
Mm-hmm. Now, also worth noting that these teams have some accomplishments. For example, YS Siege, they won the Victorian Cup Season 2, and they got 9th in the Face It League Open Season 5, whilst VA Callisto, perhaps more impressively, achieved an all-time Overwatch team record of 5 days without a single player having a mental breakdown. Now, if you ask me, that makes this the best Overwatch team ever.
Well, I mean, it's definitely a game that can frustrate at times, and this is a team they're going to be hoping will frustrate. 2 DPS, 1 tank, and 2 healers. And you can see the selections on the screen might give you an indication as to what they're going to be playing, at least in the first round. And Tracer being brought out could be one that one that could be a game changer, really. The rest of the characters are going to be trying to support that Winston. The Tracer can just cause a bit of havoc.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, Tracer Winston combos are good. Winston's able to attract a lot of attention from the enemy team, and that can force people out of certain choke points, out of certain positions, or um, or like push them back, or make them overcommit a little bit just to kill the Winston. And Tracer's a really good character to capitalize off that because she's so fast. She has a very strong get in and get out nature, and with the bug that's giving her a massive buff late game, once she's got that perk, we might just see a lot of Tracer with the recall doing that even more. We might see Tracer centered comms potentially. It entirely depends how much these teams want to exploit and anchor that tool.
Yeah, Sojun and Anna, both characters in both of these teams, so it could be interesting to see who decides to ban who when. And well, I think Anna has already received a buff to one of the perks, which could play into this matchup, as there was quite a few minor buffs, quite a few minor, just taking down on some of the abilities just a little bit. But I mean, they've only had a day to adjust to this, and of course, Reinhardt will be the focal point of that attack. A more aggressive, a more dominant, I'd say, character in terms of a tank. Reinhardt will be trying to attract the attention and allow maybe the other team members to fight around rather than with.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And we should be just a couple minutes away from the start of this match here, this the beginning of the end for this tournament. Season 3, it's been a wild ride. I think this started in August, and now it's October, and we've gone through 3 seasons total, just about. I'm honestly excited to see what happens here. I think ending the final on a new patch is so interesting because it makes it so unpredictable. It is genuinely really interesting. And I don't think anyone has a full picture of what the meta is going to be looking like now. And so it really gives a creative space for these teams to work in and potentially shows us, the audience, what's going to be happening and what's going to be going on in the final.
It certainly may well be. I mean, they're going to be discovering the meta as we go, and of course, as they have those character bans, the metas that they would discover will instantly be nerfed, and that's going to be the case for both teams. So it's going to be pretty much the same situation. Map 1 is announced. We're going to be heading to Oasis, and well, Callisto have decided to ban Adventure. Siege have banned Orisa, which makes sense around Oasis because you can just try to build around that focal point. But that's going to be the map selected for round number 1, and well, that's going to be a very interesting one to be getting us underway. We're going to have a control to kick us off, and there you go. There's the graphic for the hero bans. The Orisa for YS Siege and VA Callisto have decided to ban the Venture. How's that going to change the approaches of either of the teams?
Actually, I think it's fairly conducive because those are both extremely heavy displaced characters, right? Orisa with her fortify, her javelin spin, and her spear. All of those are intended on denying space and moving opponents. And Venture's very similar. She's got the drill dash to push enemies, and like she gains from her abilities. She's about sustaining herself through that. So I think all this is going to do is make the game go a little quicker. It's going to leave less CC, so we might see a little bit of poke, but I think we're more likely to see a bit of a Tracer mirror here potentially because she's got so much potential now in this meta.
Yeah, there is a lot of potential for us. So she might even be removed as early as round number 1. We are going to be heading to Oasis in just a couple of moments' time, and we'll be watching the control around the center. It's a very interesting map, one of the most unique ones, just because if you're fighting around the center, around the control point that we can see now, you basically have to be in that control point. And yeah, I mean, we're going to be getting underway. You can see some of the characters thrown out already. And as you mentioned just a moment ago, we do have one Tracer on our hands, but the majority of the makeups look a little bit different. One Lucio in either team as well. So, I mean, they're picking the meta up pretty early.
Yeah, the Bull pick is interesting. Bull did recently get buffed after being nerfed last patch. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do with that team, but also on the Genji. This is a fast comp from VA Callisto, and it is a fast victory for that first fight. Jesse getting a 2k on both supports at the end. That's going to leave potential to stagger the DPS coming back out of spawn. And the instant swap onto Cassidy, just being able to hinder and see opponents in that backline is potentially very useful. Overwhelm, we've seen them on Hazard before, and they are good at it. But VA Callisto, using that wall to create so much space in weird angles, really, really clever with this DPS.
Certainly a very good start, getting the pressure right on Siege, who are now fighting back and trying to retake that arena, and that's going to be a huge kill on Wrecking Ball right there, which means that they're going to be able to get their first hit points off, and they're going to be able to get the zone back 30%, heading VA Callisto's way as YS Siege now try to do the same thing Callisto attempted to do the first time around. It was not successful, but VA Callisto now are just going to be trying to fight back, trying to counterattack and find themselves into the zone. You can see the Wrecking Ball trying to just get right into the zone as quickly as he can and try to maybe contest that arena while everybody else tries to build around. The Tracer on the VA Callisto team does have that ultimate, which could play into it later. I said that it was an enclosed arena, and well, that ultimate, that could really, really switch things up, because that can give them the opportunity, as that's going to be a little bit of chip damage off, not enough to get anybody down, but that could be a really, really huge ability later on when they've managed to push back, when they've managed to make it in, as that's going to be Tracer down, and, well, YS Siege taking the lead of the first map.
Absolutely. That brilliant Suzu from Matanui there, able to just completely counter Jesse. Honestly, a little bit of a misplay for VA Callisto there. Obviously, Kiriko had Suzu there, so I'm not entirely sure what the intention was, but a nice kill from Panther onto Jesse here, denying space and holding the angle even when Bull is pushing that backline. Really, really good. this shows strong team coordination and identifying, yes, I could try to get a kill onto the ball, but it's more useful to get a kill onto the backline and stop the rest of the team from engaging and pushing up that little bit further. That's potentially what the swap was there for in the first place, but it is a roll on point for Bio Callisto. 3 kills between them, so much space generated from those mines from ball.
Yeah, this could be one of those games where the distraction tactics may well work. The Lucio and the Tracer, both very good distraction, and that's exactly what the Tracer's managed to do. Actually distracting the Lucio to take them away from the point so they could snatch it right back. 83% for Wire Siege, but it's going to be ticking over halfway for VA Callisto, and that's going to be a great ultimate, a great time to play it. Ooh. But getting back, and that's not going to be good enough for Genji. So a very good comeback from Overwhelm, who manages to get that kill off, and YS Siege back on the point, trying to seal it.
Absolutely. I mean, the coordination there from both teams to pop ults like that is genuinely impressive, but Panther snaring on their opponents, jumping and finding a kill with the blade coming out from Lizard Star. That is going to be 1 kill. Lucio just about getting away, but not before they take space. YS Siege at 90% and counting. Bio Callisto are going to have to try hard to touch, but I think Davia will just be able to do it.
I think they will, and that's going to be the Wrecking Ball with the ultimate down on at the point and just trying to slam themselves down. But they've slammed themselves into the hole, and now it's just down to trying to drag overtime as long as they can, try to allow every single one of their team members to make it into the box and try to contest it as much as they can. This is where Tracer and Wrecking Ball can play into it. They can drag a lot of attention away, and Wrecking Ball running away from the zone, that allows the opportunity for the backline to make it onto the board. But there's going to be 5 different members of the YS Siege team alive at this time, and that could be the difference in this matchup. Wrecking Ball's down, and there's only just the one sole Tracer left with that ultimate that I said would be crucial early on. Did not use its full effect, and that's going to be them down. That is going to be just the one player left on the point, but there's only so much you can do when you're a Sombra solo on the point, and YS Siege take the first.
And YS Siege really showing the potential shortfalls of, Callisto showing the potential shortfalls of a bull comp here, right? Because there's not much CC against you in these comps, but you also can't protect your team in the same way a lot of other characters can, right? You're very much a free agent. You're playing strangely, you're playing off angles, and you're playing selfishly, or more selfishly than other tanks would. So it can be difficult for your team to rally, and like trying to touch and hold point, as soon as you leave, that just leaves your backline defenseless.
Yeah, they were trying to defend, I think, at that point, with the Wrecking Ball just trying to pick up everything they could, while allowing the opportunity for everybody else to get on point. Wrecking Ball still being used, still being attempted here, despite the fact it didn't work at the first map. But, I mean, they've got 70%, so it worked to an extent, but that required early pressure on the point to get up to, I believe it was around 40%, which they got straight away. Control point has been unlocked. So who is going to take first control? It looks like VA Callisto have it again, and that's going to be a huge, huge kill for the Tracer, keeping the pressure on Wrecking Ball on point, as they just... They keep getting onto the point at the right time just to be able to contest. That's exactly what they did at the last game, which managed to drag the overtime as far as they could. And Callisto getting the first few points on the board in terms of the point, and YS Siege on the back foot, but they came back from the back foot impressively last time and without much trouble.
Ooh, and CG getting a nice kill on Panther there in that backline. Now, Blizzard Star potentially looking for an opportunity to push up. He really should be engaging here. And the kill with the deflect. Oh my gosh, that was their own kunai as well. That, honestly, a little bit rough. VA Callisto needs slightly better communication and slightly better read of their opponents there, as that is a clean sweep for them, regardless.
Yeah, clean sweep, and that is a very, very good start to this map for VA Callisto, but they need to not get complacent. They need to remain on point, and they don't want to push too far forward because they know YS Siege can sneak back around. That's the beauty of this second map, is that you are able to sneak through. There's a lot of opportunities to get through and to open yourself up back to point, despite the fact that nobody on the other team has noticed. They're managing to stick together at this point. They're not worrying about those points ticking down now up to 60%, because they know that if they can win this little skirmish, it's going to be their match to lose. there's Panther, Tracer down for YS Siege, and that could be a huge play at this point. They're trying to sneak around, but Jesse holding that point, and I think now is the opportunity for them to just really stick it to them. This is the final skirmish if Callisto are to win this point, and it all comes down to how long can the tank survive. At the moment, Tifa doing well to get a couple more players down. Genji's been important in these early parts of this map.
Now, a nice double kill from CG there, and Tifa able to get another. Oh, Davio getting one onto Matanui. And a strong hold from VA Callisto. 0% for their opponents and 95 and counting. Only one of their opponents can actually touch, and even then, I'm not sure if they're going to. They just about do. But with the bull rotate and a defenseless backline is looking like, I'm not sure how much longer they'll be able to live. Carry wall climbing to survive using the Suzu for themselves. And we're seeing the power of this Vogue's Tracer right now. How quickly she's able to move, how quickly she's able to recover with her dashes now is honestly ridiculous.
Yeah, it certainly is, and we will see as that is going to be the match leveled up so far. And round number 2 in round number 1 has been completed. They have leveled up, and just having a look at the chat. And, well, Anarchy predicts that this is going to be a 7-map thriller. Well, certainly hope so. Of course, 7 maps. It's going to be best of those 7. And that would mean that we get 4-3, and that would be an incredibly long match, but a very good one to see at the very least. They are level in this first little skirmish, and we get this one is the most open, I think, of the maps that you're going to be getting here at Oasis, just because there's so much opportunity for airtime. I think we might be seeing maybe someone like a Farah thrown into the mix at some point, but we've got a couple of changes. Reaper's in there, and well, despite the buff, we've got Kiriko brought out as well, and those are a couple of new characters we've not seen so far.
Now, you did say we might see this go to 7. I think it's going to go further. I think we're going to get a draw in one of these matches. Never before seen this season in Crown Cup, I know. In all seriousness though, the Davio controlling a lot of space here, overwhelmed going Zarya is potentially a very good choice. Zarya is decent in the current meta, they're pretty good, but against this comp, one that's able to pick off backline targets so well, it's really strong. And with a Reaper especially, that's potentially very threatening. Reaper and Zarya pair so well together, and the damage output from Reaper this past season has been astronomical.
It certainly has, and Reaper has been one of the most used characters, especially in the matchups that I've had, and at the moment seems to be controlling the point, seems to be soaking up all of that pressure, everybody trying to get them off, and they are playing incredibly well to not be taken down. Blizzard Star at the moment, the star of the YS Siege team, which is why the point is still contested, despite the fact it was at one point a 1v4 in the zone. Just, you know, the ability to soak up all of the pressure, all of the shots, but somehow managed to stay alive, as Tifa somehow managing to stay alive, down to 30 HP, but saved by Weller. And this is going to be BA Callisto's point to lose. They've managed to get down the Reaper, and that's crucial. They've taken the point, and they're going to really go hyper-aggressive, trying to take them pretty much out of sport.
Now, the deflect here, trying to find just a little bit of chip damage, a little bit of sustain. YS Siege ultimately having a slight economy advantage, but it is close between these two teams, and VA Callisto controlling the point always gives them that little bit of an advantage. They get the comfort of playing reactionary, although they did just charge up Zarya a lot, and that's going to be some threatening damage potentially, especially as we see a bit of an odd rotate. Jesse able to get a kill, but trading ultimately, and Overwhelm using that damage boost from the pulse bomb, finding so much potential in this backline.
Yeah, there's so many opportunities for all of these players to really make themselves the star of the show. VA Callisto at the moment just about holding on to the zone, but Blizzard Star again really starring in the early skirmishes of this part of the map. Of course, I know that VA Callisto are currently in the lead, but there's the ultimate that comes out, does not get anybody down, moves to potentially the wrong part of the arena to get that ultimate off, but ultimately they are going to be able to take the point back, and YS Siege snatch it with 58% down for Callisto. And it does feel as though, despite the fact VA Callisto somehow managed to win the early skirmishes, it does feel as though this is YS Siege's map to lose.
Absolutely. It's a little bit touch and go, but with 60% and 20 Callisto do have a slight advantage, and the ball swing onto this backline, it is wide, it is threatening, and it's giving Callisto a lot of space to potentially push back and work with here. Panther already being forced back, forced into a little bit of a Tracer 1v1, just trying to identify each other. And the Genji ult does come out alongside a beat to counter the Graviton Surge. That's essentially going to nullify two ults. Overwhelm being really, really strong here with the ult economy, and a 90% charge on that beam for Zarya is going to be very, very, very strong. But with, Zarya on 19 health, they are not going to be able to live. Now it's a 1v3 on the objective. I don't think there's much Davio can do on Bull here.
No, I very much don't think there is. Callisto are looking very much on the back foot once again, and it does feel as though they're going hyper aggressive as soon as they pick up the point, which has not worked. Didn't work on map 1, hasn't worked, or it didn't work even on round 1. It hasn't worked on round 3. And that just feels like where they might be going slightly wrong. They're trying to go too aggressive, then they get easily moved around, and there we go. That's the point for the other team, nice and simply. And there we go. YS Siege, they are on the front foot. They may well have this point, and it's now down to VA Callisto to try and contest and do something. That'll be important. Jesse taking down Panthers. There's no distraction coming from the face of the Tracer. Blizzard Stars down for YS Siege. An opening for VA Callisto if they can take it as we go into overtime. And there's only one player on the spot, and that is going to be the Zarya, who's going to take a lot of damage. And he's going to try and soak all of it up, waiting for all the other teammates to make it onto the spot. There's Lucio to try and heal. There's the kill from Tifa onto Overwhelm. And Weller gets Curiosity, and it looks like they might be able to snatch it right back. Still the contests, but that's going to be Panther down. That's going to be the point back in Callisto's favour.
These teams both choosing to play very, very brawly here. Both choosing very close encounters compositions. I'm honestly kind of surprised we're not even seeing someone like a Sojourn to deny space at range. They're both going in, brawling as hard as they possibly can. And it is genuinely making for some incredible Overwatch. We're seeing the attempted flank from Blizzard Star here going to fail a little bit, but the pulse bomb from Panther is going to find Tifa. And 99% on point for YS Siege. They only need to cap and hold in overtime to win this first game. But Bull is going to give them a little bit of a struggle. Even with that Suzy coming out very early in this play, I don't think there's going to be much of a hold from Callisto ultimately.
Yeah, Wrecking Ball going down is absolutely important, and Tifa getting squeezed into the area. Weller goes down, and that looks like it might be the map for Siege. Nobody there to contest. 2-1 to Siege, and 1-0. YS Siege takes the first point.
Now, the 3 ults at the very end seems a little bit extra. Maybe that's just a bit too toxic. But honestly, a close game so far. YS Siege are a team we have seen a little bit in the past take some time to get warmed up, but it looks like they are coming out swinging and have done so pretty well. They did win the first map, lost second, ultimately came back around with the first, and now we are going on to game 2 in just a couple of minutes. That was good.
It was very good Overwatch. It was very aggressive Overwatch. Both teams came out of the blocks firing, and I think Callisto maybe even went too aggressive, maybe even went too far. And when you get that point, the inclination is to try and squeeze as much as possible. But at Oasis, where there's so many opportunities to go around and to take the point without anyone else noticing, I think it was a failure on their part to really, they tried to push, they tried to apply the pressure, but when they're able to get rid of it so easily, it feels almost pointless.
Absolutely. I will say this time and time again. Control in Overwatch is the best mode. Not just because the mode's well balanced and interesting, but because the maps are so good. Genuinely, the maps are so conducive. They make fun Overwatch. They don't advantage any specific comps too much, but they don't weaken any too much either. It's brilliant at providing every character a moment to shine in some way, and I love them. They're fun. That and King's Row are kind of what I think of when I hear Overwatch. So I'm really excited to see what the next map choices are coming up. But that was pretty good.
It certainly was. We'll be getting our maps soon, and we'll be getting the characters soon as well. Gone, and the characters that are going to get banned from that game gone. Who do we reckon, based on those first skirmishes, are going to be on the chopping block? I think Lucio and Tracer have got to be in the mines at the very least.
Yeah, Tracer is almost certainly. I mean, if you don't ban them, you have to run them right now. That is unfortunately just the state of the game currently. So, with a Hollywood map choice, I genuinely, this isn't the best Tracer map. That it's not an awful one, but Tracer doesn't have quite enough vertical mobility to be able to fully manipulate points and objectives on this map because it's got such an emphasis on verticality, this map. And although there's long distances, Tracer can reasonably cover well. I think we'll see a slightly slower game here. I think we'll see a potential for different choices, but I'm not sure if we'll see her banned. I don't think this map leans into Tracer's strengths enough that we will see her banned here unless a team feels like they absolutely have to, because you can only ban Tracer once. So I think they're going to save it for something a little bit later on. Maybe an escort map, maybe something else.
And there we go. We've got our bans. We've got Genji banned for Siege, and Callisto have banned Kiriko. Well, I mean, that makes sense. That makes complete sense. The amount that Genji was used in that last match just to soak up pressure by both teams, especially in the first two the first two rounds, that makes sense. And the Kiriko call, little bit less sense. I didn't see much from the Kiriko, but of course you don't see much from the healers in this game, especially not in a control game. They just sort of linger in the background. But yeah, those two make sense. I like the Genji thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Genji again, a character that we saw plenty of that last game, and able to do a lot, outputting a lot of damage and controlling space, taking fights wherever they wanted to. Because on Havana, Genji can wall climb, Genji can dash. You basically are never safe from him unless you ban him. And Kiriko as well, really, really good on dive. If one person goes to a place, she can instantly be there. She's got that insane teleport, which on Junket Town lets you like skip all of last point. It's hilarious, but I think we're quite possibly going to see um, poke here. I don't think dive is as likely with those two characters banned because they are core and essential to how current dive comps are played, unless you're running Brigana, which I believe Wire Siege do quite like. No, that is Callisto. Callisto really like Brigana comps, so I think we're more likely to see them run it.
Yeah, I think so. What we'll be getting underway in just a couple of moments' time. You can see the Hollywood map that we've got for our first hybrid of the evening, and hopefully not the last hybrid. So the order that we're going to be running in is going to be, of course, we've had control, then hybrid, then escort, and then actually we aren't going to be having another hybrid. We control, hybrid, escort, flashpoint, push, escort, and then control if we get there. But yeah, we're going to get the opportunity to go in just a couple of moments' time, just waiting for both the teams to get ready and get back out there straight into the Hollywood Hills for this second matchup, and we will see what they're going to be able to be capable of. And do we think that based on those early fights that Callisto will be able to launch an attack here?
I mean, very well, maybe. You have to remember, Siege have been waiting for several weeks to be in this final. They knew they were like like a month ago, right? And they've not got to play it yet, but they finally played it, or they're finally playing it. And perhaps they're a little rusty, but even if they are, they've come out swinging with a good lead on map one. It wasn't dominant by any means, though, and so there's definitely hope for VA Callisto. I'm just I just think it comes down to the strategy of these teams more than it does the individual plays. Of course, what you're doing in game has a big impact, but I think with teams that are this good and this closely balanced, the strategy ends up having a higher impact. And Blizzard Star choosing to go for a interesting, potentially showing off the new perk, giving her just a little bit more ammo, a little bit more pestering and sustained fire. But against a Widowmaker, sustained fire isn't necessarily what you're looking for.
Brigana, the setup then for both of these teams in terms of the healers as we're ready to get underway, and Siege already setting themselves up for the defense via Callisto, ready to get out of the blocks firing. And yeah, Brigana for both of those teams. The Widowmaker is an interesting call as well, but I don't hate it. I mean, especially at this early point of the matchup where they can just sit up, and there we go. It's already been removed, and they've decided to switch to Tracer and to try and fight through. So as you say, Tracer doesn't really suit this map. So I think it's just all about getting DPS, getting damage on the board, and trying to just hold on to the objective. And at the moment, I mean, YSC very much in a strong position right now where they're just trying to sit on top of the map, and they've been able to fight off VA Callisto but not get any of them down. So they're ready to fight and get straight in. Davo getting very aggressive early on. The map is contested, but Davo just sitting on it, and I think that's going to be the strategy for here. I think it's going to be Brigitte who tries to rear gun really, and I think it's just going to be a case of Winston trying to get on and stay on the point.
Jesse's struggling just a little bit here on the back foot, but now Healing Runner's kind of taking that angle, taking that opportunity. VA Callisto are capping now, slowly, but they are doing it. And I believe they've got the first third of the objective now as Jesse gets a kill onto Curiosity, and Davia finding yet another onto that backline support. Blizzard's Power finding one as a counter onto Monkey, but ultimately this is a dominant win for VA Callisto on first point.
It certainly is. They get to move the payload now, and it's going to be opening up the gates as well. Just having a look at trying to snipe some of the players out of the air. This is a different part of the map, a very, very different part of the map, and one of the most unique parts of any map that you'll be seeing on Overwatch because of the height that you're able to get. So again, as I said last time, all the height characters go into effect. Here's one just trying to get the snipes off. Widowmaker wouldn't have been a bad shout. Ana, not a bad shout. Lots and lots of characters, not bad at shouts. And I think that is why Tracer feels like a weird choice to me. But I mean, at this point, it's a case of just trying to. They're trying to play on the front foot. They're trying to get all of the movement, get the other players confused, and trying to work together to carry this payload forward, which of course it's already made it halfway to the first checkpoint. But it's all about that height as Winston tries to take down Brigitte, can't do it, and he's actually matched in the area. And well, they're just trying to take the payload forward. They are being hotly contested, but this feels like Callisto very much on top.
Absolutely. Now Panther looking to get a kill in this backline here. Oof. Oh, that is some nasty damage to that backline. VA Callisto have such a lead here. Not only in objective distance, but also ult economy. They all have their ults, and they have not lost a single fight yet. Against what is two ults, VA Callisto should be winning this next fight. They should cap this next point for free, so long as they don't blunder too hard.
Yeah, they're going to hope not to, and they're just carrying that payload forward. Well, it's almost making it to the point now, and this is where they're going to be starting to think about maybe even the next part of the payload, but they need to get it there first, which is going to be a harder task than you'd think. Jesse taken down, Baptiste knocked down, and Curiosity trying to distract, trying to revive, heal, do a lot of things at once, and is doing a very good job actually at doing all of them, but slept by Ana, taken down by Ana. And that's going to be Davo taken down as well. Curiosity knocked down. So is Matanui and Blizzard Star. So VA Callisto, whilst they might lose a couple of fights in that one, it's not quite as dominant as the early part. They are already, with 4 minutes and 20 seconds left, into the second objective and on their final stretch.
Callisto, honestly, a really, really strong push there. Really, really good fight. But to say they used 5 ults, they were close to losing that against 2. That was a little rough, not gonna lie. That's hurt their ult economy, but it's mostly tied up. Their opponents only were still quite far away from a bunch of theirs, so they're not in an ultimate deficit. But I think if they're going to have to work that hard to win these, they're going to stop gaining momentum. They're going to stop moving forward. They do have time for that, but I'm not sure how much they're going to be able to save. Now, Overwhelm getting Nano, really pushing up here, and without an ult from YSC or from Callisto to counter, it's going to be difficult. Even with the sticky bomb, though, they are able to push through, and it's just going to lead to a reset from these two teams now. But Callisto are going to get back slightly earlier.
They haven't really settled at any point in this matchup because of how hyper-aggressive VA Callisto have been and just how aggressive out of the block Siege have been. There's an ultimate that could be popped off for the Tracer, and just trying to survive the Tracer versus Tracer fight, and does so successfully. There is contest on the point, but at the moment it does just appear to be that they're fighting, and the point just happens to be there as well. Devo trying to take down the Ana has been slept, and that's going to neutralize the VA Callisto attack just a little bit because of how hyper-aggressive the Winston has been so far this match, how crucial he has been to all of the pushes forward, and now he's basically the only focal point taken down. Overwhelm gets the kill, and Siege win the first fight, I think, of this match. That's probably the third fight that they've had, I reckon. That's the first one I think they've won, and that could be a switch of momentum. Maybe VA Callisto might lose their heads a little bit. They need to hold on to their heads. They need to just, continue on the momentum they had before, and they need this. They probably need this skirmish to win now.
This strong rotate onto the backline from Overwhelm here, using two ults between the Nano and Hazard, but it's not going to be quite enough. They're going to force their opponents back just a little bit. They're going to force CG to ult, and that's about it. Now the counter ultimate, and with the Sojourn ult as well coming out here, I'm not sure how much these teams are going to be able to do. It's a little bit of a stalemate. No one's really dying, but both teams have used plenty of resources, and that's ultimately going to hurt VA Callisto because they have to play games just that little bit slower now. They can't be quite as proactive as they would like to, making fights long, giving an advantage to that backline. But the VO able to get a kill, and the match has been paused.
I mean, that was surely a mistake, but I mean, that was very, very close to the end. And, well, that is a huge opportunity for VA Callisto to try and make their way to the end. I believe we've had a disconnect from the session, which is why the match has been paused. They were very close to the end. They were just a couple of meters away, and that's going to be a really high bar for YS Siege to try and match.
Yeah, that as a pause is wild. We are about 10 meters from the end. Depending on who's DC'd, could determine the outcome of this match, because you start back at your spawn point. If it is someone on attack, especially a support, that's going to make them struggle to be able to get back to their team and able to support them properly. But if it's like a Tracer, that's not as bad. You can get back quicker, you can help recover, you can get in there just that little bit quicker, and seconds are crucial and vital here to the end of this game.
Yeah, it's so important towards the end of this matchup and towards the end of this game. It's very much been VA Callisto's map, and I think that comes down to their play styles matching the way that they have managed to do. And it's actually, just having a look, it was Ana on Siege that disconnected. So that is going to be interesting. I mean, of course, they will reset. Ana was not really having much of an effect, but just allowing the Bridge Ana setup to try and counter the exact same setup. And sometimes that's exactly just what you need to do, really. It's having the ability to try and counter and, completely block out what the other team have done. But we will see I reckon they've got about 2 minutes left on the clock to take it to them. YS Siege very much on the back foot at this point in the matchup. Also, very much on the back foot in terms of when they have to fight through. And we will see 2 minutes. That the Ana has to make it back in, or that is going to be the end of that one, and they are going to be disqualified from that matchup, and that is going to tie up the game. Not that Callisto weren't going to tie it up anyway, but I think that's just it doesn't really matter either way. I don't think it looks very, very, very much in the favour of VA Callisto, as it was actually just under a minute that they had left, and it's now a case of, well, do YS Siege fight back? Are they going to be able to fight back, or is it just going to be a case of they sacrifice that map, they go again? They're going to go
and
again.
we are headed back in with, I think, a sub in. Masanui. Oh wait, no. It was Wellard on my on Callisto. I forgot who DC'd. It doesn't matter though. Callisto have done it. 1 minute 8 on the clock, and they've made it all the way. But with such a dominant push on the first 2 points, if they can put up a strong defense on the first 2 points and then as strong a one on the last one, they should have this in the bag. They should be able to win this map and tie it up 1-1. Now,
yeah, they should do.
It is a question of what if, of course. But I think with how well versed they are on this map, this was their map pick, and they showed that power. They showed their ability to play it right on the first point. They should be fine. They should be able to know what they're doing, and they should be able to generate the same results they have previously. But only time will tell. Blizzard Star potentially going Echo, a character we're seeing a little bit of here in the current meta. They're a little off meta, but they can work. They have high burst damage. They're good into certain things. I'm not sure if Jesse's Sojourn is the thing to play it into, though.
I'm not sure, but they will discover at least what VA Callisto are going to be having in just a few moments' time, just over 10 seconds. In fact, they will have they will have the ability to make it to the end with over 1 minute and 8 seconds on the clock, and they will win this round. But it's going to be very difficult. VA Callisto, very aggressive team, and this is a map that is very conducive, allows them to be aggressive, and that's what they're going to get the chance to do at the moment, as Echo's going to try and go forward. Blizzard Star has really been the star, I think, for Siege. They were very much the star when they switched to Reaper, and they're getting that early DPS off now. This could be the crucial player in the matchup.
Mm-hmm. It's an interesting choice. Echo is definitely an off DPS here, and Tracer's essentially your only choice to put on DPS, as we just saw Tifa able to get 2 kills off the back of that anti-nade, and it was a good anti-nade. That was a little bit rough for YS Siege. Callisto already showing that they have this solved. A perfect Ana throw. I mean, a good arm for an 80-year-old woman.
Well, I mean, it's rolling back the years here in this fight, as she always seems to do. And YS Siege not able to get onto the point. They've got 3 minutes left to attack the objective A, and VA Callisto very much holding it at the moment. Can they take Overwhelm down? Indeed they can, and that could be a very, very important part of this one, as they're trying to get everyone down pretty much. Blizzard Star taking down the Echo has gone, and YS Siege are going to have to build up their attack again, with both of those critically gone from the matchup, and Panther joining them back at spawn point. VA Callisto have won that early fight, and Overwhelm, he's coming back in now. They need to take the objective, or at least one of the tips on this attack.
Now, I'm not sure how YS Siege approach this in the way. They've tried doing a little bit of a split push with a dive in that backline, but Tifa's Tracer always just pelting through the hazard, able to kill him and shred him down so quickly. Everyone trying something a little bit different, but without their team to back them up, they do ultimately just fall. There's not many opportunities against such a well-structured team, and like, dive on this map on first point for defense is hard to break through. I'm honestly shocked why Siege did it so quick, and with 140 on the clock, Callisto did it so quick. And with 140 on the clock, I'm not sure if YS Siege are going to be able to do it at all.
I certainly don't think they will. And ticking down to 1 minute 30, this is desperation stuff for Curiosity and for YSC. And it may well be a level game as they manage to attack onto the zone once again. They've managed to start taking the objective, but they're going to be under a significant disadvantage time-wise. They did win that fight. They did win the skirmish, and there's going to be almost going to be taken down a couple of players. Not quite worked out the way that they would have wanted to, and Echo trying to get the damage off the DPS on the Winston, who has managed to ultimate, but hasn't managed to do much else other than that. They've ticked down on one, and they're going to tick down on another, as there goes Winston, there goes Tracer, and YS Siege are going to be taking the payload out with less than a minute on the clock. For reference, as it ticks back up, of course, as they get that bonus time to 3 minutes 14. For reference, BA Callisto did it in more than a minute less.
Yeah, like they had over 3 minutes on the clock by the time they capped first point. So I think that BA Callisto clearly an advantage here. I think that they are the favourites to win this map. It's still a little touch and go, but they're almost guaranteed more time than their opponents have.
Yeah, they certainly are. It's going to be an interesting one to see how they compete with it, as of course BA Callisto came out the blocks fighting, swinging, and winning the first couple of fights. Now they sit on the back foot, and this is where I think that Davo has to switch off of Winston when he dies, because it's not the ideal character for this area. It's a very, very strong character for when they're trying to defend the payload. Now that it's on the move, I think, especially at this map, something more along the lines of course, Marissa, who is not allowed, but something along those lines would be preferable.
Mm-hmm. Now we're going to see a tactical retreat from BA Callisto here. Honestly, really, really clever positioning earlier in this fight. Every angle was covered, and they were coming perfectly as to when to retreat. Now, the dive onto the backline from Overwhelm here is not going to be enough with Jesse's ultimate. Double pushing that was a weird choice that ultimately just cost them the fight.
Yeah, cost them, and well, BA Callisto now are, well, at the moment, looking the stronger team once again. They've managed to win that fight, and you can see why they enjoy Hollywood. They are a hyper-aggressive team, and at the moment, that is working for them. The hyper-aggression and just everything about this map seems to be in the favour of BA Callisto. 1 minute and 16 left on the clock, and YSC are very much needing to push forward right about now, and it just feels impossible. Everywhere you look, there is a BA Callisto player, and that is testament to their teamwork. That is testament to, you know, the way they fight, where they fight, and well, there we go. That's a potentially a big kill there. Jesse gone down. YS Siege are not on the payload anymore, but they're in and around it and have the opportunity to take it.
Yeah, a team with so much map control, able to do a lot, and when the chips are down, that Tracer double kill, potentially a triple kill, really, really comes in clutch, really saves the fight just at the very end there, as it's a 2v3 ultimately. Now, retreating back to their stations, this is a tough team to push on this map. We're going to see Blizzard Star choosing to swap out for the Venture. Honestly, a good choice. Venture is good into Winston, and with so much displacement, you can potentially force your opponents off height. But against a team that has such strongly coordinated dives, I'm not sure how much YS Siege are going to be able to do anyway. I mean, Winston's already just dealing enough chip damage to force their opponents back, and Overwhelm already getting antied, dying ultimately to Jesse. A little bit of a weird rotate from them, to be fair. It was a fair punish, and overtime, almost no time on the clock now, and no one's going to be able to touch. The Primal Rage is popped, a little bit unnecessary, might I add, and BA Callisto have won the second game in this match, best of 7 overall. This is closer than I was honestly expecting. YS Siege looking theoretically to be the clear favourites to win, but ultimately maybe not playing this tournament for several weeks waiting for the final to happen has hindered them just that little bit, and BA Callisto have really brought it together and pulled it out for the end of this tournament.
They certainly have. This is very much on now. They are level game. We are pretty much starting again like they have in all the other rounds, where it's best of or first to three, even best of five. So first two maps down, level, and it doesn't feel as though we've got an early contender for this one. It doesn't feel as though there was one team that got unlucky, lost their map. It feels as though it is a very even game. We will not be getting a hybrid game again, which for VA Callisto could be a bad thing. Next map's going to be Escort, so maybe could be fine. We'll see how they play on for the rest of this game. But there's two more Escorts to go, one more even Control to go, and then a Flashpoint and a push as well. And I wouldn't be surprised if we make it through all seven.
Honestly, there's a reasonable chance we do. That was shockingly close. This has actually been a really interesting match so far. I think that the Tracer ban is most likely here. VA Callisto utilizing Tracer just that little bit more. Winston comps lean so well with Tracer, and centering the composition around the character that's really strong because they're bugged is honestly really funny. It is a little bit questionable, but ultimately, if it works, like, hate the game, not the player, right? I know Blizzard's an indie company and whatnot. They only have Microsoft money, but you can't blame them for all these bugs getting in the game.
No, you certainly can't. Although, I mean, only Microsoft money is a crazy statement. Escort is going to be held at Circuit Royal. That is going to be what is selected. Because they've selected now the map that's coming up next, we're going to be seeing who they're going to be banning. And of course, this is going to be a very interesting one. Based on that last round, I can't really tell because it felt like a lot of different characters were the right characters at a lot of different times. So I don't think there's a clear answer as to who they're going to ban. And I think it's going to be a difficult one. I think it's all going to come down to what they think might be good on this map. And I really can't think of anyone. Anna, maybe, but I don't think there's a clear answer.
Mm-hmm. Now, Circuit Royale is a map that esports teams love because it gives coaches a chance to show off their playbook. And you can really judge how well a team understands a meta by how they play Circuit Royale. Because if you try to earnestly run dive or brawl on Circuit Royale, like fully committing to that, you can struggle quite a lot. The map has so many long sightlines that, like, Hanzo's genuinely one of the most popular characters on it, because what you're essentially doing is you're forcing long fights and you're just trying to choose the characters that excel at further ranges or can really close the distance. So sim comps generally pretty good, especially for entire team rotates. But I am curious what these teams will do. I think that as a choice of map is interesting because of how much it changes the game from other ones, like even Havana, which is typically quite a poking map, still works well with dive, but Circuit Royale, dive struggles on.
Yeah, we've been given the opportunity to have a look at the players that are banned, and one has been used very briefly, literally had one shot, and that was Widowmaker. Zenyatta hasn't been seen yet, so this looks like they've prepared for Circuit Royale more than anything else. This looks like they've completely blocked out what's happened in the first two rounds. Now it's down to who do they think is going to be good at Circuit Royale? Who do they think is going to be good in this upcoming round? And those two, gone.
Yeah, Circuit Royale is... sorry. Those bans are choices. They aren't really what I was expecting. I don't think we've seen a ton of Zen. That's potentially a target ban, and Widowmaker is very common, especially at the start of Circuit Royale. Not overall, but specifically on Circuit Royale, Widowmaker is common now. I think we're potentially going to see some BAP, because Baptiste, he recently got quite a big buff to one of his major perks, and he's a very strong reactionary character. He he's a little bit like Clive Weaver with being able to defend the team and save allies, but he has more pressure damage. He's just that little bit stronger in attacking situations, and overall, that it gives you that little bit of an edge in fights. They happen slightly quicker, yes, but I ultimately think we are going to see a Baptiste here. I could be wrong, but if these teams are playing further range poke or slower compositions, I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it might be a slower game. I mean, that first one sort of looked like a decent game, really, in terms of the aggression, because we thought it was going to be slower. In fact, Callisto came so hard out of the blocks that it got forced to be a faster game. Circuit Royal, I think this is going to be a little bit of a slower game where we will be seeing teams build up rather than being able to just come out of the blocks. And that's just due to the nature of the map, the windy, twisty nature of it. And we're going to be getting ready to get underway. YS Siege and Callisto, very level. They've banned characters that have barely been seen. And now is the opportunity to see what they can do. We've got an Orisa brought out by VA Callisto, of course, that character banned for YS Siege. And well, there's a couple of new characters, in fact, and most of which actually we haven't seen before. They're taking very different approaches.
Mm-hmm. Now, YS Siege running the double hit scan, very common on the Circuit Royale. It genuinely can work quite well. But what's really interesting here to me is the BAP.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting matchup for VA Callisto. On the point early on and managing to escort that payload just a little bit further than they would have been expecting at this early skirmish. Of course, 23 up to 26. Orisa trying to soak up the majority of the damage. This is a very good character to play to play in a map where you're trying to escort the payload, because you can literally sit on the payload, everybody can work around you, and that's the way that they can just set up huge kill on curiosity.
The aggression. Yeah, the aggression from VA Callisto really working well here against the BAP ARE. That's a really strong defensive comp, right? Those are both very powerful reactionary heroes. They're intended to play slowly and stall out fights, which theoretically should work. But Sigma's just a little bit underpowered right now, and I think that's ultimately punishing YS Siege. I think that's ultimately what's given VA Callisto so much space, and why they're on over 5 minutes on the clock for first point, which on Circuit Royale is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a ridiculous start to this matchup, and I mean, YS Siege really need to fight back. They're on the back foot. They've been on the back foot pretty much since the start of the last map, which is interesting and surprising. YS Siege expected to be clear favourites for this one. VA Callisto at the moment are fighting back. They are the underdog so far, and they might be taking the lead if they're able to pull this one off. The payload is being escorted. There's 4 minutes and 30 seconds left, and they've already got their first point of 3, hopefully, and that's a huge kill again on Curiosity, who has gone down. Haven't seen much from Blizzard Star in this matchup, and I think that might be the difference. Of course, when you have a star player, as it looks like he has been so far, that is what is important. You need the opportunity to really attack.
And the 3 ults for YS Siege potentially going to be the deciding factor here, especially when they kill their only opponent who has one. And the ult economy advantage could come in clutch. Curiosity, the only one with an ult left, and the immortality field able to block just a couple kills from Tifa early on in that ultimate, and now it's just a little bit of a mess on point here. People trading left, right, and center. It's very skirmishy, but 0.29 meters on the clock on the objective. This really comes down to who can hit their shots and if either team is going to be able to stall, but with Wire Siege just slightly closer to the point, they're able to rotate just that little bit quicker and ultimately hold with 3 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, able to hold at this point in time, taking it away from that crucial second point that could be so crucial throughout the remainder of this fight. But yeah, it's just it's creeping further and further away now, which that is not what VA Callisto would want to see, and they're just trying to counter-attack. But this is a point where it's very difficult for the team that spawns where VA Callisto did to make their way forward. The reason being is they're on the low ground. Wire Siege very much on the high ground, so VA Callisto have to do something to make their way up to the high ground and to give each other level opportunities. Davo gone down, that is the tank gone, and that feels as though that's going to be the push. Absolutely countered. Wire Siege have won. This is the difficult part of the map. This is the difficult part of the map, I would find at least, to really take control if you're spawning where VA Callisto are.
Absolutely. Blizzard Star able to fire that milo shot into the backline, able to get 2 kills. Now, there's an interesting time to use that ult, but when Freya gets her ult back so quickly, a character literally built around her ult economy, you can afford to. And Matanuli is able to, like, this is a strong defensive turn. This is a hard spot to attack for VA Callisto. Their approach of being fast and loud and obvious and really going in, especially with that terror surge. Now, a 3k almost instantly on that backline. Oh, wow. That was even quicker than I thought it would be.
Yeah, huge team kill for VA Callisto. They're able to pick up the second point. They now turn in to the final area here at Monaco, here at Circuit Royal, and they are again very much pushing forward. In fact, pushing so far forward that only one player has now just made it back to the payload. Everybody else is already on the push, on the attack. 2 minutes 40 left, and this looks like VA Callisto could take the lead, which could be a huge moment in this matchup, and it could provide the opportunity for the underdogs to start to dream in our best of 7, and they would be 2-1 up after 3. That'd be a great chance for them. Overwhelmed, trying to overwhelm the other team, getting lots off. Can they get the kills? They've got Wellard. Can they get anybody else? No, but the damage and the distraction is crucial, and well, they now have in the end got a couple of kills off, but VA Callisto a couple of kills in return, and well, Overwhelm's strong ability there, his very good play to spread the damage around has once again come off, and it eventually does pay off.
Now, this point is almost always a fight for high ground. Wire Siege displaying how to hold it perfectly there. They did use a lot of ults, and VA Callisto ultimately now have the economy advantage. But if they're not able to find picks, if they're not able to get round that, then they're ultimately just going to be held down that little bit further with 1:30 on the clock now. We see that they push up really well at the start of the game. Then their opponents get wise to their tactics, and they start losing momentum. Especially with so much pressure from so many angles, it's incredibly difficult to know where they need to be pushing, where they need to be taking. A split push doesn't even necessarily work unless you have a playmaker like Tifa on this Genji, able to get 2 kills and Devere finding a third. Now that is a 3k for Genji overall from that Dragon Blade ultimate. Are they going to be able to find another? No, they just get pushed back to their spawn.
Yeah, they get pushed back. VA Callisto gets pushed forward, and this is going to be their point to lose now, as they've teamed up with Wire Siege for one final push, one final opportunity to even up this game. Not even it up, just take something back and to keep this one alive with 30 seconds to go. But VA Callisto very much on the front foot, very much ready to fight. Panther on the objective, but has died. Now, this is presenting the opportunity. They need to get the Sojourn down. They do. They've gotten 4 different players down. There is 1 to go, and that is going to be the kill off. Curiosity is down. Davo gets the kill, and well, they are going to be taking that point home. Round 1 complete. VA Callisto on top, and they win.
Honestly, pretty good. That was a pretty strong push. It's quite rare teams make it all the way on second Real, but if they do, it's often mirrored. So I think YSC are going to be able to push as far as their opponents did. We might not see quite as dominant a lead on the first two objectives because honestly, that was ridiculous. I was kind of worried it was going to end with like 7 minutes on the clock for VA Callisto.
Yeah, it very much looked like the dominance that they had, and they very much had dominance in the last two matchups. Now, this could be a vital one throughout the course of this matchup and throughout the course of this grand final here in Crown Cup Season 3. Can YS Siege fight back, or have VA Callisto done enough to take the lead? This would very much swing the confidence in their favour. This would very much swing the match into their hands. And YS Siege, who of course won that first map, and we all expected it, now have an opportunity to, well, I say opportunity, there is a chance that they now go down, they now go behind, and that could scramble some heads, as they were very much the clear favourite. You talked about it, you said that it was pretty much going to be, it was pretty much YS Siege's game before we've even gotten started. Now, it looks like VA Callisto, this is their chance.
Absolutely their opportunity. That Sigma Rock coming out early is not quite going to be able to find a kill, isn't quite going to be able to find an opportunity. And YS Siege really running a defensive comp on attack here. It's a little risky, but when they're getting kills like that, it potentially works. Especially as their opponents just giving it up. This is weird. We saw a very, very aggressive attack, and now a super defense with an aggressive comp. I'm not sure VA Callisto quite have this locked down here. This doesn't feel quite as they should be playing. They're being extremely respectful, but ultimately it's YS Siege taking an inch and VA Callisto giving them a mile.
Yeah, huge berth given for YS Siege on Callisto, or given for YS Siege by Callisto, and Tifa just trying to play around to get to the objective. Does get a couple of knocks down, but Tifa eventually got killed by Curiosity. The Baptiste looks to be the character to play here, and the Immortality field is going to help that, as this is the point where I said it was difficult if you are on the back foot to make your way forward. They are very much on the front foot, so who cares? They've made it through anyway, and they are, well, they have picked up that 1 point. 5.3 seconds was what VA Callisto had at the end. 5 minutes left is what YS Siege had. This is the part where VA Callisto started to struggle, where it started to stick for them, and YS Siege had an opportunity to really attack. That's a huge chunk of damage, and that's an even more huge chunk of damage. Baptiste Stult very much being used, especially by Baptiste himself.
Yeah, I mean, Baptiste answering the question, what happens if you give Lifeweaver a machine gun? And ultimately, it's death and destruction. Now the ult's coming out here from both teams, but that's a lot of damage from the gravitational flux onto that backline, and a 3k between all of YS Siege. They're now pushing up even further, and they've got distance. This Sigma's playing quite aggressively now, and that's ultimately going to give them an opportunity to just hold that little bit further. And I'm not sure anyone from VA Callisto will be able to touch the objective before it gets capped at 4 minutes.
Yeah, not long left to go then, and 4 minutes left with 4 meters left on the payload to make it to the second spot and pick up the second point for YSC. This is Sigma's opportunity to get the kill down. That's a huge chunk of damage on Devo, and that's going to take them over the next point.
I'm not sure what's going to happen here. We know this point comes down to who can take high. And with VO Callisto already on the back foot for rotating, YS Siege might just be able to take the high ground uncontested. And then their defensive comp, their reactionary playstyle, becomes even stronger here because they control the entire map through this high ground.
yeah, that is where Circuit Royal is won or lost. It's through the high ground. I talked about it in the early part of it, and it's even valuable in this later part of it. As these two have sort of gone off from everybody else to try and get them off spawn, and at the moment it appears to be working. Jesse has been taken down. The Baptiste could be also crucial in this skirmish, and that's going to be more damage off. The Baptiste is, or not even the Baptiste, it's going to be the Bridget who tries to fight back, but there's only so much they can do. A lot of heals, and this is going to be a comprehensive charge, even better than the one that VA Callisto had to the end.
Honestly, I forgot about the point for most of that. It was such a long rotate, and it was such a long fight up on that high ground. But ultimately, that's not the objective to win. The point is, so if you've got someone sat on the point able to just fire off healing occasionally, you're fine if you win or lose. And if you win, you're dominating, right? VA Callisto, start of this point, had such an incredible push. But now 1 minute to 5, you have to not lose a single fight whilst your opponents get to try again. They have so many opportunities and so much time to push.
Yes, so much time. And only 1 minute, though, for VA Callisto to try and break this deadlock. 3 points apiece. And, well, they're going to have, in just about 30 seconds' time, the chance to attack this point once again. The beautifully decorated point, I must say. I mean, it's Monaco, it's Circuit Royal. Of course, they've brought a Formula One car into the mix, and they're going to be trying to take it over the line. 1 minute left to go for VA Callisto, and they're about to get underway. Not much change in the way of character selections. They're all happy with it. Genji for Tifa, though, could be important.
I mean, I would hope that a Formula One car could go about 500 meters in 5 minutes, but we all know the cars in Overwatch move suspiciously slowly.
They certainly do. I mean, they're not powered by anything. They're just pushed forward by
hopes and prayers.
Which, exactly, hopes and prayers and dreams. And at the moment, VA Callisto are dreaming of taking this point back from a point where they might not get an opportunity to fight for very much. They've only got 30 seconds left on the clock. They've taken it to 50 meters and past it, and they pretty much had consistent push throughout. Somebody needs to get back on the point. There we go. That was a slightly nervy moment for them. And well, there's a McCree thrown into the mix. That could be very different, of course. Not called McCree anymore. The name that they use now escapes me. But they are just trying to push that payload forward, trying to get it as far as they can. 3, 2, 1. And that's going to be it and into overtime. As soon as they lose it, though, that is going to be it. But I think they've managed to sneak their way to another point.
Absolutely. Sorry, I'm just dying. My life is connected to VA Callisto's odds of winning, which clearly both showing signs of low. But we are now... I think Wire Siege are in the running to win this stuff. I wouldn't be too stressed if I was on their side. Of course, there's a little bit of pressure here. VA Callisto almost getting to second point without losing a fight earlier, very quickly. But ultimately, Wire Siege kind of solved how to play this map in their first push. And with such a strong ult coming out very early on, that is going to be a good pick. Now, Orisa ult coming out isn't quite going to be able to find a kill, and Curiosity popping their ult in turn, a very, very powerful ult. But the machine gun can just melt through people. It's not quite going to be able to find the damage they are looking for, but with the Melody coming into play, that is going to be 4 points and 66 meters for VA Callisto. Wire Siege have 5 minutes to get what they got in 1.
That could be crucial. Those 66.21 meters, that 1 extra point, VA Callisto are going to have to push to defend more than they've ever pushed to defend in their life before. We know that that's exactly what they aim to do. But as we look over the Monaco harbour on the south coast of France, we get the opportunity to have a viewpoint of one of the most beautiful maps, in my opinion. But back to the action. These players won't care about how beautiful the map is. What they do care about is the action ahead of them. The 5 minutes that they have to defend, and they have to stop the car going 66.21 meters. That is the equation for VA Callisto. YS Siege, they just need to take it past. That is it. And they need to do nothing more.
I mean, they got to get to 88 gigawatts. Sorry. Back to the Future reference, if you get it. If you don't, also fair. I've referenced too many movies in this in Crown Cup already, so honestly, we can chill out a little bit. But you got to remember, this may be a race, but ultimately, it's a Grand Prix. And by that I mean first of all, not best of four. So it's going to be interesting to see which team ultimately wins the game as a whole, because this is just one match, and both teams are tied up right now. So even if YS Siege get this very dominant lead, which they're likely to, it doesn't knock Callisto out of the running yet.
Very good point made in the chat by Spike. That Saigi playing Bridget is doing nothing on this map. I've barely seen them throughout the course of this map, and when I have, it's them on the back foot, desperately trying to fight their way onto the front foot. This looks like a map where Baptiste is so important. That's probably why Zenyatta was taken out, because it's an aggressive healer. That's what you need. Whereas you have Brigitte, you have Anna. They're not necessarily aggressive characters, not as aggressive as someone like a Baptiste or like a Zenyatta. And that's why we're seeing the team who primarily have played Baptiste as their main healer coming out on top. I know that, of course, Jesse has now switched to Baptiste, but when you have a team on the front foot, when you already have Baptiste in your ranks, that's your chance to really take yourself over the line. And they are 3.54 over, or 3.54 even behind, taking over that line. Baptiste sitting on the back foot, trying to get that damage off, trying to get the DPS, and trying to knock out the final few fires for VA Callisto. So this is going to be the next point for them. 66.21 meters awaits their next point in the matchup.
Now, Curiosity, able to find a lot of damage. I mean, truly displaying what happens when you give a Life Weaver a machine gun. The player releases all of that pent-up rage they have, and they just push forward unnecessarily. This is interesting, because they're forcing a fight so far out away from the objective, because they know they don't have to win, they just have to stall. And with the Brig coming out, getting an early kill onto them, stalling's not going to be enough. It's not going to last long enough. They do have 240 on the clock, but with their full team wipe incoming, will it end up being enough?
I'm not sure. I'm really not sure as to whether it's going to be enough. We will see, as well, they are going to be just the 18 meters away from taking this point home, and taking it to 2-1 for YS Siege at this point in the matchup. It's going to be very, very important. That's an ultimate thrown off by Orisa that has not done much in terms of the way of taking Callisto back into the fight. It's still dominated by Sigma, who's trying to get the final kills off and get back onto that payload, but might get overwhelmed as that Orisa ultimate looked a bit more powerful than I gave it credit for.
Yeah, this is interesting. The economy-wise, YS Siege definitely have an advantage. They are 4-3, but it's not the but it ultimately comes down to how you use it. If you can counter 2 ults with 1, you've instantly tied that up, and it completely balances out the game. Now, Overwhelm and Jesse and Panther both dead. It kind of leaves a weird 50-50 between these two teams, where neither's lacking in resources, neither's in a deficit, so every play, every shot makes a difference, as the earliest part of the fight is the most important. How you approach it and what you're able to do instantly determines the rest of the fight.
It certainly does. It's going to determine the rest of this fight, and well, we will see, as they are going to be taking that payload nice and easily to the next point. A minute left on the clock for them, and whilst VA Callisto ran out of time, YS Siege appeared to have oodles of time here. The ultimate comes out and is actually moved by the payload. Could be a huge moment for them, as they are able to take this one off. YS Siege pick up their second point. They lead.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, brilliant palm tree at the end. Well done, the true MVP. But Curiosity, I mean, player of the game, Iliari, those ults were popping off. They were able to find so much pressure and get so many opportunities for kills. Literally just in the back lane, chilling out. But genuinely, really interesting fight there. VA Callisto showing an early dominant lead, but Wire Siege quickly turning it around, showing why they chose that map and what they were able to do. The first game where Tracer wasn't banned, she just wasn't played. Because even though she's literally busted right now, she is broken out of her mind because of the bug. There's no point playing her on a map like Circuit Royale. And if these teams, and if Wire Siege want to keep on winning, they might keep choosing maps that are so strange and counterintuitive to how Overwatch is normally played. So Saravasa could be in the running here for Flashpoints next.
Yeah, could be. Of course, we've got 3 points down. We've got 3 maps in. We have 4 to go. Flashpoint will be the next one up, and then we'll have push, escort, and control. Voice your opinions in the chat, and just let us know. This round has just been a Blizzard Star masterclass so far. Says Totally a Girl OW. I mean, I made that point earlier on. I think that the DPS is so important, and I think Blizzard Star has chosen the right characters at the right times. Yes, maybe they went missing a little bit in that final matchup, but they've been so important.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, be sure to stay tuned because this is a good final so far, and it will continue after a 10-minute break. Yo. That was an interesting 3 games out of 7. Jeez, it's not even half done potentially. I mean, this has been a close matchup. For those who are just checking in, we are in the grand finals of Crown Cup Season 3 Challenger Division. This is YS Siege versus VA Callisto. YS Siege having a dominant third game, bringing them into 2-1. Ultimately in the lead, but in this best of 4, there's still plenty of time to play it in.
There is certainly so. There is so much time for these players to bed themselves in. Obviously, they've had the first 3 rounds to just settle themselves. The first 2 rounds sort of neutralized everything. The third round is the first one where they really started to bed in and really started to attack. And that's where we saw the class of our expected champions, YSC, here today, our most favourite here today. But now it's the opportunity for Siege to settle themselves in, to really bring it from there, or the opportunity for Callisto to try and come back.
Yeah, absolutely. This is probably I'm pretty sure this is going to be a close game. We have the underdogs of VA Callisto literally getting knocked down to the lower brackets in their first game and then fighting tooth and nail to get back up, eventually beating the people who knocked them down, Elemental Dragon, in the semi-final, and ultimately finishing off in this final here against YS Siege. And we already have the map choice of Saravasa. I predicted this a little bit. I think that it's, again, quite an open map. Tracer is still good here because Tracer's good on every Flashpoint map. So it's a little bit touch and go as to whether or not they're going to be banned here, because they've definitely dominated over 2 of the 3 matches so far.
I'm surprised we haven't seen Tracer banned already, especially with the obsession that the meta seems to have with it. I'm surprised that Tracer hasn't been knocked out of the park, potentially even first round. And we will get in a minute our bans coming through. And there we go, just on cue. We've received the message. We'll get it on screen in a minute. But there we go. Tracer has been banned for Callisto. And for Siege, it's going to be, or even Callisto, it's going to be Zarya, who's going to be banned. So Zarya, who we saw dominate the end of that first round, gone for this next map, which will be Saravasa, which we're going to be heading to in just a couple of moments' time. That makes it very interesting.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the Zarya ban especially here is so pivotal, because Reaper, that Shadow Step, being able to traverse such long distances on Flashpoints especially is really useful. And Reaper's kind of dominant right now, pretty hard meta, and complements Zarya so well. He's got 300 health, so he can tank a little bit of the damage for the team. He benefits being close to his opponents, so he can also be a good magnet for bubbles, and it provides a really strong rotation for a team if they are coordinated enough. But with Zarya banned, there is a much slimmer chance that their opponents actually run Reaper. And with the Tracer ban as well, the teams are going to have to improvise a little bit here with their comps. They're going to have to think outside of the box, and they're going to have to seriously experiment with what they're doing, what they're pulling out here. You could try run a Bap Lucio comp, with Bap being quite strong now with his upgraded with his upgraded perk in the last patch, meaning his team can attack 25% quicker and receive the healing from his healing burst. It's potentially possible, but ultimately these teams are going to go for Lucio Kiriko comps.
We are going to have just under 20 seconds remaining in the preparing to attack version, or even in the preparing to attack mode. We have just under 2.5 minutes for your submissions for the predictions. Who is going to win map 4? At the moment, it is 61% VA Callisto and 39% YS Siege. I've put my 50 crown points down. I'm not going to say who it was for, because that may it may make you think I'm unconsciously biased. Of course I'm not, but I've gone one way, and I'll be interested to see what everybody else does as the start of this fight does begin. Baptiste has been an important character over the last couple of plays. Looks like it's going to be an important character, at least for YS Siege once again, and that's going to be Jesse down. That is going to be the Reaper gone before the matchup even started, before it really feels as though there's an opportunity for Jesse to show what Reaper is able to do.
And as I'm consciously biased, this is really, really good for me. YS Siege capping the point, brilliant. I bet 4.5 channel points they would win, so I'm going to be disappointed if they lose. Of course, I am mostly joking here. I do have favourites, but it doesn't have that strong a bearing. Now, a strong defense here. YS Siege choosing to run the Venture, really, really good. They really like these comps. It's almost their signature, and they're able to do a lot with it. But Davio doing even more on ball, able to find 2 kills for his team overall in the first couple seconds of this fight. It's going to put a big advantage for the side of BA Callisto. That's going to probably offer them a big chance to retake, and retake they will, with their opponents only on 60%.
Yeah, magically they've had the opportunity to get Reaper back, so they win the point. That just appears to be the way it is. Everybody is sort of matching in their ultimate charges. Everybody getting ready at about 60-70%, something along those lines. 50% for a lot of the VA Callisto players, in fact. But Wrecking Ball is trying to have a fight with Baptiste here. And realistically, when you're a healer like Baptiste, if you are fighting with Wrecking Ball, you are doing a very good job. If you're a Wrecking Ball and you're struggling to beat a healer, that is potentially a problem for you, and something you probably need to fix at some point. As soon as that's going to be Davo on the point, and it's 66-63. It has flown by this early part of this black point. And there we go, the ultimate for Davo. That could be so important. That takes down Blizzard Star, and that gives them full control of the point with 20% remaining.
Those bangs able to deny a lot of space didn't come in that useful, but the attempt to clear them from Blizzard Star was a little bit of a misplay there, in my opinion. We're going to see YS Siege trying to rotate round to just a little bit of the side that VA Callisto need to push through to cap point. Not quite playing that right. They are going to end up rotating back around. They do have the lead to get to point. They should probably have just committed to get there first anyway, but ultimately it doesn't make that big a bearing on the result of the match overall, especially as both teams popping Kutsune Rush. There's going to be a strong mirror. Jesse trying to find an opportunity, does have die. Are they going to be able to use that Death Blossom, or are they just going to hold out and work that a little bit? Venture with their ultimate, trying to find a little bit of disruption in that backline. Isn't going to find a turn, but Panther and Blizzard, ooh, both able to get a kill. That is 0 support for the side of VA Callisto, and YS Siege are going to be able to take this fight.
Blizzard Star playing very, very well so far, and they're trying to get all of the, or pretty much everything down. Gets Jesse down, gets more down, and I mean, my Blizzard Star agenda, I will be consciously biased about the fact that I think Blizzard Star has been the MVP so far, regardless of what they've played, and that is testament to them, the fact that they've been able to be so good at so many different characters, and they've really, really played a factor in the fact that YS Siege are going to be able to take that point back, make it 1-1, and level it up here in the Flash Room.
Now, the Reaper trying to rotate just that little bit, able to get a kill onto Matanui, but that's going to be it, and ultimately sacrificing themselves. That was a little bit of an obvious play there. I think they got punished appropriately for it. Almost Ajaxing with the jump on the beat, not quite though. Very risky and ultimately unnecessary, but it does look cool. And isn't that what esports is about?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, coolness wins you points. It doesn't, but it wins you points. Or brownie points at the very least in some of these fights as well. We continue on. The flashpoint's going to unlock in 36 seconds as everybody allows themselves the chance to rotate. They're already there, some of the players, including the Baptiste, and now everybody's trying to come around the corner. That's going to be Reaper down, and Jesse's not really been able to make the full use of that Reaper so far. It feels like they might even be the wrong person to be playing Reaper.
Yeah, maybe. I just don't think Reaper quite works here with these comps on this map. I think it works really well with the Zarya, but with that character banned, there's not much point in trying to run that comp, trying to run that system, and Genji trying to get a kill here, trying to get an opportunity, is not quite going to be able to, but ultimately does still out Panthers of just long enough to make it difficult to work with. Now the Fool on point trying to find a kill, and the Excavation Initiation getting 2 kills from the bat of it. I think one of those was an accident, but Blizzard Star certainly isn't going to complain about that, as a very quick flip for Wire Siege there, a little bit touch and go, and then they went all the way through the enemy team.
Yes, they're just going to be getting through the team, and it's just a very, very good play for Wire Siege, which means they're going to be able to take the lead once again. Once again, Callisto able to take the lead, Wire Siege able to fight their way out of the corner and into the lead, and that is a very, very strong opportunity that they have made for themselves now. And the Sojourn with a 10 player kill streak and on fire, and you can exactly see why. And actually 3 players linking up and 4 players linking up to get rid of the Wrecking Ball. You can see exactly why they have all been able to take so much control. It's because of the teamwork. It's because of the way that they've been able to do this. And it looks like they're going to be taking the lead here in this flashpoint round. And it looks like it's going to be 2-1 to them. I think there's going to be one more final push from VA Callisto, though.
Absolutely. Now, I mean, 96, 7, 8, 9 on point. It is now in overtime. And close at that. Panther already quite low. That's going to give it a little bit of attention away from Kiriko as Jesse looks to push up, tries to take them space. No one gets hit by the hazard, just about avoiding it. That is a very well played team, very well coordinated, and able to dodge their opponent's attacks. Now, I'm not sure if they're even going to be able to touch. They certainly aren't in the end. Now with Bull on the point, trying to find the opportunity for a kill. Blizzard Star not doing too hard overall, but Bull just about escaping. Wait, Blizzard, yeah.
Just about escaping, and they've done well to just about escape 2-1 to Wire Siege, and this is the point in the matchup where it's just sort of, it calms down. It's the calm before the storm. It's the calm before the final point, and Wire Siege, because the dominance on the previous point, have now an opportunity to try and really attack and really just set themselves up well in the best position they can before somebody like the Wrecking Ball comes in and tries to capture it, and just being able to defend it for now.
Honestly, a very early over from Queen. I think I was able to get a kill though, which is worth it, honestly, in the end. But a messy fight on the point, especially for VA Callisto, as Wire Siege ultimately roll their opponents back and find a lot of space and opportunities.
Yeah, getting the opportunity to create themselves opportunities, and they are now 40% there to picking up the picking up the point, to picking up the next point and taking themselves to a 3-1 lead, taking them 1 away from match point. And this is the chance that they have been waiting for. They've got 1 ultimate to 1. They might have another one. Indeed, they do. Kiriko just getting there. So 1 final push from VA Callisto. Maybe they're going to be able to squeeze another one, but 1 big push to finish them off. And I think they're going to be able to ward them off pretty well, especially with that Lucio ult coming into play very much near the end of a fight.
I mean, the way Lucio just gets bodied into the wall, the ragdoll physics after death are so funny in this game. I love them. But Wire Siege capped. They've gone all the way, and they're 3-1. They only need to win 1 more game here to take it home and get the definitely, totally, physically real crown at the end of this tournament.
Of course it's real. I don't know what you're talking about. We get a real crown. I'm going to get a real crown for for bringing you through this. I hope I haven't been missold and lied to on that front. But no, I mean, it's been a very good fight to start off. And I think, again, it just feels as though Callisto take that first point, take the advantage, then try and go too hyper aggressive. And that's where they're losing it.
Mm-hmm. I'm interested what's going to show up here. I'm curious to see what is chosen for this last map here. I believe it is push. And Callisto, they've won on the maps where you can play those close encounters. You can play those close quarters, and you have to play fast. Sarabasa is a little bit more open than Junkertown is typically, and so teams tend to, if they want to play quick, gravitate towards Junkertown, or New Junk City even. My mistake. But choosing Saravasa there with how these teams play, ultimately I think is a little bit of a mistake. It isn't the end of the world, and certainly still touch and go. Either team could have won that, really. But I'm interested to see if they choose one of the closer maps. Something like potentially a new Queen Street.
Maybe we'll see, and it's going to be in the hands of the players in a minute's time as to what is going to be selected. It's going to be, of course, a push map, and it's going to be the final new setup that we're going to have. Of course, we have 4 rounds completed so far: control, hybrid, escort, flashpoint, and then it's push. From that point on, we cycle back round. We go to escort and we go to control to finish ourselves off. And we're going to be seeing what is going to happen towards the end of this one, and we will be seeing who's going to be banned at some point soon. Of course, we'll get the maps out as well, but surely at some point, I think Trace is going to be pulled out as one to ban. I think Baptiste is going to be one to ban. Maybe Sojourn after that round as well.
Yeah, I mean, you can't ban Tracer now because repeat bans aren't allowed. So,
oh yeah,
it entirely depends on the map choice. But I think Alicia is very common here. He's a character that's been consistently played every game, but the escort, no, not escort. That's really going to frustrate me now. It is escort.
Oh,
Circuit Royale. Alicia's been played every map but Circuit Royale, and is the real center of speed comps right now, with Juno just being a little bit further behind, not quite catching up like they did when they were released. Now we are jumping onto New Queen Street. There's a little bit more close encounters, more angles you can take, especially as a Tracer, and VA Callisto, VA Callisto have been performing better on Tracer than YS Siege. Still, YS Siege have been using Tracer well, but when you've got those Tracer monkey comps, you're able to roll back your opponents so much. You're able to create so many opportunities and threaten so many positions and angles. I think it's going to be difficult for their opponents to find a real opportunity.
It's going to be very difficult. They're going to have to find it. They're going to have to make themselves an opening. They're going to have to do something different. And we'll see, as New Queen Street is the one that's selected. You've been right on your prediction. And so it's going to be very, very tight out there to see what we're going to do. A quick matchup, I think, is ready to get underway. And we'll see who ends up getting banned. I mean, we might have our list now. We do. And, Reaper's gone. Reaper's going to be gone, as is the Wrecking Ball, the Hampter. He's going to be gone as well. YS Siege ban Wrecking Ball, VA Callisto ban Reaper, and that feels like a move that has been coming for a while. Reaper looking very strong.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, they banned the other half of that comp last game. Now it's time to ban the Reaper part of it. It makes sense, right? It's the main thing that's been pushing you back. It's the main thing that your opponents have been using against you. So why not just exploit it, get rid of it? Especially when he counters both Winston and Bull. Now, I would like to point out that Ember at Lovely Observer did write Hampter. So from now on, legally, that's his name. Hammond who?
No, I stole that joke, but it's fine. It was a good joke nonetheless. But we are going to be getting ready. We're going to be getting underway for map number 5. Don't forget, that could be it. That could be the one that crowns our champion here at New Queen Street, and our champion could be YS Siege. They've done very, very well so far, and we will be seeing what they're going to be doing. They've very much warmed up now. This is going to be the peak of their abilities before they start to fall off, I think, towards the end, because it feels as though it's a crescendo. It goes up The first couple of rounds are just them warming up. Round number 3, round number 4, something like that is them at their peak, and then they go and fall down again towards the end. And the 5 players that we have are going to be ready to attack, and we have now New Queen Street could be the difference between YS Siege and taking that title, or VA Callisto throwing their way right back into contention.
Mm-hmm. Now, of course, I wouldn't be remiss without saying that Canada in autumn, it feels like it's set in the stars, right? This map, it feels very autumnal, and the leaves are blowing outside my window right now. I can't see them, it's pitch black, but just imagine they are. This has to be where it ends, right? This has to be the grand finale. It's all been building up to this, and this little robot is going to push that little block all the way to VA Callisto's spawn point. It sounds so underwhelming when I put it like that, but I'm excited.
Yeah, very, very exciting, and we will see what they're going to be doing. And of course, as I say, this could be the difference, and that bot is about to be unlocked in 5, 3, 2, 1. I know I counted in the wrong order, but it has now been unlocked. And, well, we're seeing an Echo thrown out there right onto the point straight away. There's a Tracer as well. And Jesse thrown down early. And that is going to be Blizzard Star taking the early part of it. This is going to be YS Siege, even as Blizzard Star and Matanui are taken down. And, well, VA Callisto, early start. Seen this one before.
Mm-hmm. YS Siege do get a little bit of an early push there, but VA Callisto flipping it back almost immediately. I think they have the better comp here. I think the Winston complements Tracer so well, especially with how VA Callisto likes to play. And Blizzard Star just managed to burn down the Vio. The Echo is a really interesting choice here. It's working. This is an Echo player who knows how to hold and take positions and pressure those off angles that are just that little bit off, that little bit strange and weird enough that it punishes your opponents.
Yeah, it would punish your opponents, and that's not what you want at this point. If you're the opponents, of course, and we will see as YS Siege are starting to get that lead. They have switched it back, and it is now 30 meters taken past 17, and here comes the second fight on here today. It is the second fight in this final fight here today. The game has been paused. Somebody's been disconnected. What the bets is the same YS Siege player?
I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be shocked at this point. I don't know what to talk about. That's kind of put a stalemate in this now. I got a mug with a tortoise on it. It's called Terry.
Oh, you know what I've got? This was. I will clarify. This was absolutely disgusting. This was a pause request, by the way, not an actual disconnection. I have. Look at this. That's cute.
Ooh.
I know. It was absolutely vile, and I literally took one sip, threw the rest of it away. But a very pretty can, so I kept it.
Now, did you know Hello Kitty is canonically not a cat?
I, for some reason, did know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know why I know that.
I mean, I don't think the creator of Hello Kitty has seen Hello Kitty because it's obviously a cat. But anyway, if you're a furry
More to the point,
you watched that growing up, that's probably why. I am joking, of course, mostly. Now, the game's actually started, so we can stop talking about weird niche movie clips, which is, as a caster, my speciality.
yeah, we can go right back to the action and we can have a look at some of the players taken down. Davo taken down by Curiosity, and that's going to be what the support character taking down even the tank. So it's a huge moment, and could be a defining moment. VA Callisto have a lot of players on the point, but YSC able to hold them off far enough that they are able to take it up to 57.18 meters. And well, while Winston was trying to hold it, this feels like a game where nobody really knows how to play this one tactically. They just all sort of try to throw things at the wall, see what sticks.
Absolutely. Ult being popped left, right, and center, but in the chaos, YSC able to find that metronome, able to find that opportunity, and getting a kill. Almost a trade there from that backline, as Blizzard Star is just cleaning up and clearing out their opponents overall. I think it shows what one player on an off pick can do, because Echo's not bad by any means, but they're certainly not hard meta, and if you're able to play an off meta hero well, it really puts a pause in what your opponents are doing, how they are playing, because it makes it so much more difficult for them to react and consider strategy when they're just being countered by a thing they're unfamiliar with. Now, Wellard able to get a kill onto Curiosity. VA Callisto are finding forward momentum here and have retaken the robot, but they're only just getting back to mid. They're only just making progress, and with 550 on the clock, they have to make a lot of distance in half the game's total time.
Yeah, half the game's total time, of course, and we've got about 5 minutes 42. You can see just under the crown, and 90 meters is how far YSC are taking it. So YS Callisto or VA Callisto, even very much on that back foot and trying to fight back. But with Overwhelm playing this well as a tank, you're going to really struggle. When you have a good tank, your team can be unbelievable. When you have a good DPS, when you have a good support character, it can be something in the middle. When you have a good tank, your team could be taken to the next level, because of course it's the strongest character, the one with the most health. It's the one that's going to be the one that it should be the focal point. So when you've got a good one, like Overwhelm is playing here, that is the difference between the two. And I think Davo's doing a good job, but I think Overwhelm's just got the edge.
The Sombra swap is interesting here from VA Callisto. Sombra's a character that's been reworked like 20 times at this point, to the point where they're almost unrecognizable from release. But that lovely cut to a dead Tracer, gotta respect it. Now, it's a very scrappy fight. Everyone's a little bit spread out, and Panther ultimately able to find some off-angles, able to find a lot of damage onto their opponents, getting that headshot onto Winston, and he is going to end up being staggered. They're not really pushing the robot. They are now. I was curious if they were going to leave it, but with 4 minutes on the clock, it doesn't really make sense to. Panther does have ultimate though, possibly going to come out and use it in just a couple seconds.
Yeah, we'll see whether Panther is going to be using that very soon, as that's an ultimate off Sombra, just neutralizing everybody else, and that's where a Sombra can really come into play, where they can just sort of delay something so crucial like a Tracer ultimate, and that's exactly what they've done. Tracer still not able to pop it off. Is it going to be right now where they decide to do it? I think they went to press the button, but couldn't find it. Just looked like they stopped, and that was going to be it. They got taken down, and Callisto able to take it back.
I think they were just resetting to get back to the point. There's no point using your ult there. You're not going to get 3 kills. But, I mean, yeah. Is that right? Is Overwatch. This is one of the Overwatch matches of all time. And to be fair, it's actually been a pretty good one. Now, this Lucy is really aggressive. Pushing back on a DPS like this is a really interesting choice. If they're able to make it work, which it looks like they have to, they create a surprising amount of space for their team. Honestly, that's impressive. But now with the Primal Rampage coming out from Davio, but the hazard of just to counter it, and the beat drop saving their life, a lot has been put into Davio here just to keep him alive, not even winning the fight necessarily, as Overwhelm does ultimately get knocked out, and that puts Wire Siege on the front foot here, as they get a player back before their opponents do. But Devio already looking very low, and Lucio potentially going to kill them right here and now. The 2v1 against the support is going to punish them. Echo duplicating Tracer. Interesting choice, potentially very powerful. Isn't going to yield. That actually is going to yield quite a reasonable amount of distance and space for their team at the end.
Yeah, it's going to allow them the opportunity to retake it. YS Siege are going to walk that man back to their point, and well, with VA Callisto were able to take a little bit more of a chunk more time out and a little bit of a chunk more distance out. It's still nowhere near enough. That's another ultimate from Tifa, and it always gets me so excited to see a Sombra ultimate, but I don't think that one was quite as good as the last one. But I mean, having said that, having a Sombra combine with a Winston could be crucial, because that allows both of them to just... It allows us to see the best of both worlds. And Lucio, very much the same. So I think the team composition here is pretty good. And at the moment, it's just about trying to utilize its full effect.
Now, again, it's really weird, because VA Callisto definitely on the back pedal here. But Wire Siege never making it all the way, not making it up this hill. To be fair, one of the hardest points to push in the game. Finally getting there and just applying a little bit of pressure. Every time they push just a little bit, they may not get all the way, but they're running down the clock, and with the Kitsune Rush coming out as well, the clock's getting slower and slower. 40 seconds left. Jesse does have that pulse bomb. The only ult that's really in line here, Devio about to get Primal Rage. Are they going to be able to combo these ults into the enemy backline to be able to find opportunity? And Blizzard certainly will be able to.
Yeah, certainly will. It's a very, very good opportunity for Blizzard to start to really show what they can do, as it's sort of neutralised at this point, which YS Siege won't mind, Callisto will hate. And of course, YS Siege will want to take it back. 9 seconds left on the clock. And it looks like this one's going to go the way of YS Siege. They've fought so hard. They've been so unbelievable throughout the course of this competition. They came into this match strong favourites, having beaten pretty much everybody. Lucio's ultimate keeps YS Siege pretty much all of their players alive, and well, there's 4 VA Callisto players still trying to keep it alive for the team that fought back from absolutely nothing. They've lost their first match of the tournament. They managed to stay in, and now they're fighting for their lives.
And their lives are going to be short-lived now. D.Va looking very low. The swap was interesting, and I think ill-advised. I'm not sure how much that is going to end up doing for them, especially as we are now in overtime with just the resets from death coming to touch onto the point, and that is going to be it. YS Siege have won Crown Cup Season 3. Honestly, a closer final than I was expecting. VA Callisto really had us in the first half. They were running it down at certain points, especially on the second and beginning of third map. But ultimately, YS Siege showing why they came to play and what they are able to do as a team. After doing pretty well in the face, at least, we were expecting them to be the favourites to win, and the favourites they have been.
Yeah, favourites they were, and favourites came out on top. YS Siege were the victors here in Challenger Division season number 3. An unbelievable victory, and well, it's 4-1 doesn't really reflect it, really. Callisto looking a bit better than that, but in the end, 4-1 dominant.
Yeah, I mean, 2 brilliant teams and a brilliant tournament overall. We had the Challengers Division and the Rookie Division, and the semi-final 2 weeks ago was one of the best esports matches I've ever commentated. So if you want to catch any of the tournament as well as this VOD in a couple of days, if you missed anything, you can go to Crown Cup on YouTube and see it all there. That has every match we've streamed this season, and honestly, there's a lot, and some of them were brilliant. But yeah, that was Crown Cup Season 3, champions were crowned. They got a genuine real life crown. I am not making this up. I'm making this up. Do you have anything else to say, Knots?
Well, no, I really don't think there's anything that needs to be said about those players apart from just very, very well played. And well, we'll work out our MVP in a minute, but just to work out our MVPs for this evening, just to have a little chat about a couple of the people to thank, of course, myself, Yuzus, for joining alongside, and well, Ebroth, of course, taking us through using, of course, all of the cameras that were provided by our by other members of the team. It took 5 of us this evening to put it all together. Ebroth is the one able to combine everything and output it. The cameras were directed by Ember and hang on, give me a second. Fultia Mitvov, who just they took us through the action this evening. They gave us the cameras. One of them was third person, one of them was first person. They were combined, and that was what allowed us to watch that dominant performance, but very strong comeback from VA Callisto as well from YS Siege.
Mm-hmm. Now, YS Siege, yeah, we need to choose an MVP. And this is difficult. This is such a good team. They've dominated almost every match they've played this tournament. But I think this is going to have to go to Blizzard Star. They were doing so much on DPS almost all of the time and not playing the main DPS that these comps are centered around. They were playing a little bit of Tracer, but that was mainly going towards Panther. And Blizzard Star was filling with all sorts of nonsense, including Echo. And we saw in that last game, they were cleaning up. Their opponents didn't quite have the threat at range to deal with them. So, in my opinion, Blizzard Star is the MVP.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I can't argue with that at all. I think Blizzard Star is the MVP, and I mean, I talked about how important it was to have a good tank. I think they had an incredible tank, and I think they had a number of players have a very good game this evening. So huge shout out to Overwhelm, who did a very good job. I think he comes in a close second, but I agree with you, Blizzard Star for me.
Yeah, I would also like to shout out Anarchy, the driving force behind this entire tournament. They've organized almost everything, I believe, and they've done a good job. Like, none of this would be possible without Anarchy. So massive shout out to them. And season 4, stay tuned because that is early 2026. We don't know exactly when, but we're expecting to start in January, maybe February, and it should be as big, if not bigger, than season 3 was. And it's been a great tournament.
It certainly has. What a tournament we've had, and yeah, as you say, shout out to Anarchy, shout out to everybody that allows this to run, all of the players even. But yeah, I mean, make sure to get in the Discord to find out all the information about the next season of the Crown Cup Esports, where champions can be crowned, and you can find that Discord by just. How can you find the Discord? I believe you may well be able to find it through the Twitch. And GG's everybody in the chats. Thank you everyone for coming to watch this evening. And well, Zeus, have you got any final words before we round ourselves out?
Don't watch too many overs.